The U.S. Arab Radio Network is the largest Arab and Muslim radio network in America, broadcasting throughout the Midwest region Monday through Friday on WNZK AM 690. U.S. Arab Radio features Arabic and English language programming on every topic, from health, food, and culture to government, politics, and legal issues. Listen live to U.S. Arab Radio in Michigan, Toledo, Ohio, and Windsor, Canada on WNZK AM 690. And in Washington, D.C., Maryland, and Virginia on WDMV 700 AM. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, X, and TikTok. So join us every day on the U.S. Arab Radio Network and check out our website at www.arabradio.us.
أهلا بكل الذين ينضموا للاستماع إلى راديو بلدي أول راديو عربي أمريكي ويعنى بقضايا العرب في المهجر. برامجنا في راديو بلدي كل يوم جمعة من 8 وحتى 9 صباحا في بث حي ومباشر عبر WNZK Radio 690 AM. صباح الخير بلدي، صباح الخير لكل مستمعينا.
Welcome to Radio Baladi, the first Arab, Middle Eastern, and American simulcast radio show. Radio Baladi is broadcast every Friday morning on WNZK 690 AM from 8 until 9 Eastern Time on Good Morning, Michigan. Our call-in number 248-557-3300. And now, stay tuned for the best radio talk show on Arab and American issues.
Good morning and thank you for being with us. This is Khalil Hachem with US Arab Radio. It's a pleasure to be with you this morning. We have a special program for you today. You know, we've been getting a lot of calls about trusts, estate planning, probate. You know, as you well know, I work in real estate, and sometimes we have to postpone closing because of a probate issue, or we find out that the seller is not entitled and cannot sell the property without going to probate. So how do you protect your assets and save your loved ones the hassle of going to probate and going to court? With us this morning are Maya and Elaina Chebbani. Both are attorneys and co-founders of Chebbani Law, specializing in estate planning and probate. Good morning and thank you for being with us.
Hi, good morning. Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. Let us start with telling us a little bit about you and what you do.
Sure. My name is Elaina Chebbani, and this is Maya Chebbani. We are attorneys and co-founders of Chebbani Law, as you mentioned, and our office is located in Dearborn, Michigan. We specialize in probate and estate planning, so we work with clients to create a plan to protect their assets and avoid the probate court when possible and make sure that their wishes are honored. And we're really looking forward to our discussion today because I really believe that this subject is often overlooked and isn't discussed as much as it should be, which is in large part why families end up finding themselves in complicated situations after a loved one has passed away. So we're hoping to provide some clarity on these subjects today.
Wonderful. Looking forward to it. So what is estate planning and how is that different than trust?
So estate planning is the process of planning how your assets and responsibilities will be handled if you become incapacitated or after you pass away. So incapacitated in the context of estate planning means that someone is unable to handle their own affairs and
make decisions, basically.
Right. Yeah. They would need assistance from somebody else to help them make decisions either on healthcare or finance decisions. So an estate plan typically includes a will, a trust, and both financial and healthcare powers of attorney. And a trust is part of an estate plan, and it's a legal arrangement where a trustee manages and distributes their assets according to their instructions. So you name who you'd like to be the trustee of your trust and who you'd like to be a beneficiary of the trust. So a beneficiary is someone who benefits from the trust during your lifetime and after you pass away. And those are according to the wishes of the person whose trust it is. And most commonly, during someone's lifetime, they can serve as the trustee of their own trust and have full access and authority over their assets just as they normally do without a trust.
How many different trusts are there?
So that's a good question. There are a lot of different types of trusts. The most common type of trust is called a revocable living trust. And this is a trust that is amendable and changeable and can be updated during one's lifetime if their wishes change. And there are other types of trusts. Another one that we hear a lot that people ask us about is called an irrevocable trust. And this is more complex and it's used for tax planning and asset protection. But most people don't necessarily need this type of trust. So the most common one that most of our clients and most of the people in general would need is a revocable living trust.
So the best way to do is for somebody to come to you and say, here's my situation, here's what I want to accomplish. What's the best way to really go about it? And here leads me to really a question that people always ask me. You know, a lot of people think trust and estate planning are for rich people, which is really, we find out that it's not true.
Right.
So who needs it and what are the benefits? Which is, you touched a little bit about the benefits, but who needs it and what are the benefits of having a trust?
Right. So almost anyone can benefit from a trust. You don't need to be wealthy or older, and those are very common misconceptions. So it's especially helpful for someone who owns a business or owns a home, blended families, and also people with young children and grandchildren. And grandchildren can also be great candidates for a trust. And someone who has custom wishes, for example, they'd like their children or grandchildren or family members to receive certain percentages of their estate, and that can be put in the trust as well. And also people with special needs children or beneficiaries that are special needs can really benefit from a trust because we can create something, a special trust for them, and their inheritance will go into that trust without affecting their governmental benefits.
Now, when it comes to taxes, does the trust help with the taxes in a way? You know, if I die and then my children inherit the house, because it's a trust and they're beneficiary, that does not really, they don't have to pay the extra taxes. Is that correct?
Correct. So it's one of the benefits of having a trust. It's called a step up in basis. So you're in real estate, you know a lot about this. So it's a great benefit from having a trust, and your children or family members can inherit the home without having to pay that extra capital gains on the home. So that's a great benefit for having a trust. And some other benefits are it avoids going through the probate court. So it's a private process. Elaina will talk more about the probate process shortly, but trust keeps you out of the court if everything is funded properly, and it's a great benefit because your family can access your assets more efficiently, faster, and less costly than having to go through the probate court. Also, it can be structured where your children and grandchildren can receive their inheritance over time instead of receiving all of the money at once. And you can customize what ages you'd like them to receive that inheritance in your trust. So, for example, you can say that I would like my children to receive 50% of my estate or their portion of my estate at, say, 25 years old and the remainder at 30. So it helps them manage the spending of their inheritance.
So they don't blow it up at once.
Right.
Take your time spending it, you know, as you go. Okay. And what's the cost of setting up a trust?
So it really depends on the complexity of the trust itself, your estate plan, the attorney, and what area you live in. But generally speaking, a full estate plan, which includes a trust, a will, powers of attorney, both financial and healthcare, and other related documents is typically about a few $1,000s. And one thing to remember is, I know that sounds like a lot of money to be paying up front, but it does save your family a huge amount of money in the end. It saves money because the probate process costs more than an estate plan. And also it saves a lot of stress on your family in the long run.
Yeah. And not to mention the protection, the protection of assets. Yeah. And what do I need to set up a trust?
So during our initial consultation, we take basic information, your personal basic information, what assets you own, who you'd like to inherit those assets, and who you'd like to manage the assets and make decisions for you if something happens to you. And then we also go over potential guardians for minor children if you have minor children. And it's pretty basic. We go over all of these together, and once we have that information, we would design a plan around their goals, the client's goals, and come up with everything that they would need.
How long does it take to set up a trust?
It's a pretty quick process. If you provide us with all of your wishes and information during our initial meeting, it can take as quick as a week for the turnaround time to come in and sign and execute all of those documents.
Everybody has to sign, or only the person who is setting up the trust?
So in the beginning, only the people who are setting up the trust have to sign. Some other documents like the healthcare and powers of attorney, the people that you appoint to make decisions for you on those documents would sign them before they're allowed to act for you. But that can be done at a later date. It doesn't have to be now.
Now, I see a lot of information on social media, online about, do this and do that. And they're trying to sell material, basically. Right. What are some of the common mistakes people make? And they think, what, I can do this. I have I have 28 years of experience in media and covering courts. And I looked at some of the stuff. I said, this is complicated. So what are some of the mistakes people make if they try to do it on their own and just, they come to you, it's just not working out?
So we've had clients come to us and say that their job or some other program they found sets up trusts and wills for them. And sometimes they're just not as complex and they don't ask the right questions. So they don't ask the questions about if they'd like their grandchildren to receive assets if something, God forbid, happens to their children and they pass away. So it's not as complex, and there's maybe not enough questions asked when it's just a basic form.
Yeah, not as specific,
right?
And tailored for that person.
Correct. It's more of a boilerplate.
Yeah. Generic cookie cutter kind of thing. Just people trying to sell materials, actually.
Right.
And everyone I looked at, because since we talked, I've been kind of taking a look at online, and once you look up one time, as you well know, trust, then you become inundated with all this information about trust. And they're all advertisements. They're all trying to sell me materials.
Right.
I looked at a few and I'm like, what, this is confusing. I would need somebody to really walk me through and help me to set it up to my own, situation. So, is there anything I haven't asked you that people need to know about trust? Trust and estate planning.
I would say one thing that I would like to add is piggybacking off of the previous question is a common mistake that we end up seeing is that clients that don't come to an attorney that specializes in estate planning may not have the resources to understand how to properly fund their trust. So what properly funding your trust means is making sure that you retitle your assets into the name of your trust. So I think a common misunderstanding is that someone believes that when they come in to sign their trust, all of their assets somehow automatically transfer into the name of their trust. But that's unfortunately not the case. So the assets that you have, such as a bank account or a home, will need to be retitled into the name of your trust to ensure that it's properly owned by and associated with your trust. So that's a common mistake that we see as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, we ran into that not long ago. And someone we were selling a home for someone, and they said it is in the trust, and actually it was not, and we had to wait 6 months for probate to get it through and make sure everything, the executors and all of that, and to work out, because the person thought it was in the trust and it was not really in the trust. Yeah, that's a good one. What we're going to do is going to take a short break. We'll be right back. Please stay tuned.
When the aroma of Mahmoud Saleh Basmati fills the air, you know it's going to be a good meal. Extra long pearly white grains that cook up fluffy, separate, and light. Never heavy, never sticky, just pure, fragrant perfection. It's the rice that feels as good as it tastes. Gentle on the stomach and full of energy. Elevate your everyday. Ask for Mahmoud Basmati at your supermarket and taste the difference.
Ziyad brand. Quality products from our family to yours. Ziyad Brothers Importing offers the finest quality products, including brands like Sultan, Kraft, Nestle, Hook, Rico Picon, Dana, and many more. Ask your retailer to carry these fine products because you deserve the very best. For more information, visit our website at www.ziyad.com. That's www.ziyad.com. Ziyad, quality products from our family to yours.
After years of war, displacement, and loss, the silence left behind is the heaviest part. In Gaza, Sudan, Syria, and Yemen, families are trying to begin again. Their children aren't asking for the impossible, they're just asking for a chance. At this critical moment, education is more than a classroom, it's a lifeline. It restores dignity, heals trauma, and opens the door to a future that war tried to close. Life for Relief and Development stands by these families. We move beyond emergency aid to provide the stability of long-term education in conflict zones. This Ramadan, your gift, even $50 or $100, can change a child's story from a victim of war to a student of the future. Make your tax-deductible donation to Life now at lifeusa.org or call 800-827-3543. Life for Relief and Development. Together, we build beyond war.
Welcome back, and thank you for being with us. We're talking to Maya and Elaina Chebbani. We're talking about trust, estate planning, and probate. So now we're going to be talking about probate. What is a probate, and why it happens? I mean, people don't choose to go to probate,
Right. So the probate court is the process that's used to settle and distribute someone's assets after they've passed away. So the court will oversee things like validating someone's will if they happen to have a will, which not everybody does. And the court will also use that opportunity to appoint a personal representative. And this is the person that will be in charge of the estate and making sure that the assets get to the correct individuals. The probate court also deals with handling the paying of the decedent's debts and taxes, and then taking the remaining assets and making sure that they get to the proper beneficiaries. So the probate court process definitely adds some structure, but can, as we've mentioned, be really time consuming and costly. And unfortunately, it is a public process because it does go through the court, which is why it's a very attractive option to try to avoid this when we can.
Sure. We see that sometimes, and then people underestimate the cost, because you have to pay for the court, right. You have to pay for an attorney, and then sometimes the executor is also charges money. So those who have an asset, they're not going to net as much after everything's said and done. Is that correct?
That's exactly right, and that's a large issue with the probate process.
Yeah. How long does it take for probate to work?
It depends on the complexity of the estate, meaning what type of assets and how high asset the estate may be. But disputes are, the probate is normally resolved within like 6 months to, I would say, a year or so. But if there are family disputes or creditor issues, it can definitely take longer if possible. I mean, if needed.
Sure. And this is normally done after the person is no longer with us.
Yes, correct.
Yeah, and then the process of moving the assets has not been moved, and now the court has to decide what's going to happen.
Yes, exactly right.
Okay. Yeah, roughly what it costs to go through probate.
It depends on the complexity of the assets, but I would say even if we have a very simple estate, it can still be like up to $5,000 sometimes just to distribute a probate estate that only has a home in it. And as I think Maya mentioned, that a lot of people don't understand that actually planning ahead and paying for your estate plan can often be more cost effective than having to go through the probate court process later.
Sure.
Mhm.
How is that different from ladybird deed?
Yes, so a ladybird deed is actually a great way to avoid the probate process. So in Michigan, we are able to do, as you mentioned, what's called a ladybird deed. Other states may also allow a similar type of deed, but they just may have a different name for it. But this type of deed is very similar to almost like placing a beneficiary designation on your home. So it's a very attractive option that allows the owner to retain full ownership and control over that home during their lifetime. And then it will only pass to the beneficiaries mentioned in the deed if you happen to still own that home when you pass away. So if you do have a proper ladybird deed in place, it will avoid the probate court for your home.
To establish that, wouldn't it be better to talk to somebody who knows how to set it up?
Yes, definitely. And I would say there are multiple attorneys that will help with a ladybird deed, but I would probably suggest going to an estate planning attorney to make sure that that's properly set up. But we actually find that a ladybird deed is a very attractive option for people that for some reason feel that a trust may not be a great fit for them. So it's very affordable for them to make sure that they just simply have this one deed in place so that their main asset, like a home, can avoid the probate court.
I've been involved with a few of them, and I've seen different ones, and I've seen one where it wasn't set up properly, and they had to go to probate.
Mhm.
And then I don't know what was wrong with it. It just the title company kept saying, that person is not entitled. They still have to go to probate, and we couldn't really get close on it until 7 months later because we had to wait. Yeah, it took it. I don't know why it took a while, but they had to summon some of the relatives and all of that, and that took longer. So for somebody for like a consultation, what are the charges and what it takes for somebody saying, listen, I really want to do this or I really want to do that, what it takes to do that?
So for probate, it will differ depending on the attorney and complexity of the estate. Most attorneys, like our office, will actually do a free consultation for the first meeting where we explain the process and gather some initial information. And then at that meeting, we'll try to understand what assets are owned by the estate to try to give the client some clarity on what expenses to expect going forward and a timeline on the administration at that meeting.
Is there anything I haven't asked you about probate that people need to know?
I think I would like to touch on briefly how we can avoid the probate court if for people that don't necessarily need a trust, because I know that we touched on having a ladybird deed, but some people may not own a real estate in their name and they may just have something as simple as bank accounts. And I think that it's not very well understood that we can easily avoid probate for those bank accounts by simply contacting the bank and filling out what's called a beneficiary designation, which is just a quick form that the bank will inquire on who your beneficiary is, and you can even customize what percentages you would like certain people to have. So any account when you pass away that has a proper beneficiary designation on it will also avoid the probate court, which is a really affordable and quick option to avoid court for someone who feels like they don't need a trust.
Yeah. If somebody is overseas and they want to make me, whether it is a bank account or whatever it is, to take care of that for them after their death or during their living time, is that something you can do, or they would have to be here, appear here in person, or can they just take these documents and go to the embassy and have them, notarized or whatever they need to do?
So Maya and I are only licensed in Michigan to handle assets that are located in Michigan. So we suggest for clients that are located overseas to handle their probate or estate planning according to the laws of the country that they live in.
No, what I'm talking about, if somebody has a bank account in Michigan,
Oh, yes.
okay, and or a home in Michigan, but they live overseas and they just, they ask me or they ask somebody to, to represent them here or to be the executor or whatever it is that needs to be done. These things can still be done, via Zoom, and then you can send them information and they can go to the embassy. Is that correct?
Yeah, so if someone has assets in Michigan that they need assistance with, what they can do is contact our office and we can draft the necessary documents, and they would just need a valid notary and sometimes witnesses depending on what the document is. And then they can do that at the embassy or anyone else that has the authority to notarize in the United States type of notary. And then they can send it over. Most places take scanned copies. You don't need an original. So if they get that notarized and sent it back to anyone that's in Michigan, they could most likely say go to the bank for them or get the authority to sell a home on their behalf, things like that.
Because the embassy offers that service,
correct.
The notarization, so. Excellent. This is really a wealth of information. I want to thank you for being with us. Is there anything I haven't asked you, final thoughts, what can be done?
I would just like to emphasize that everyone can benefit from having an estate plan, and with the support from the right attorney, it can often actually be a pretty simple process, and it's not as overwhelming and complicated as it may sound.
Also, something I just wanted to add is it may be difficult to talk about these topics with your family members or an attorney, and we understand that it could be difficult. So our goal is to ensure that a client feels comfortable and informed on the topics, and we have a proper plan in place that makes them feel comfortable. And people usually leave here, not usually, people always leave here with a sense of relief because they're happy that they have a plan in place for themselves and their family.
Yeah, it's a peace of mind.
Correct.
Absolutely. So how can people reach you?
They can reach us via phone. Our office number is 313-314-1600, and we can also be reached via our website, which is chebbanilaw.com.
Could you repeat that info one more time?
Yes. And again, our telephone number is 313-314-1600, and we can also be reached via our website, which is chebbanilaw.com.
Thank you so much for being with us. Really appreciate your expertise and the information you shared. And this is a great information. And excuse me. And happy, I don't know if you celebrate Eid, happy Eid to you.
Thank you as well.
And yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back. Please stay tuned.
A car accident can change your life in an instant. As a result of a car accident, you may become unemployed. As a result of a car accident, you may need a lot of medical treatment. People think that insurance companies are on their side. Why? Because they're giving them one or two benefits. Are they giving them all the benefits they deserve? How would one know unless you consult with an attorney? Call the law offices of Jumana Kiruz at 248-557-3645. 248-557-3645.
Are you going to start a restaurant or grocery store soon? Do you need floor plans and designs? Call Naji Abood at 734-744-9796. Do you want to buy kitchen and restaurant equipment at discount prices? Call Naji Abood now, 734-744-9796. New Concept Products and Design, the trademark of kitchen equipment. 5% discount on all purchases of $75,000 or more. New Concept Products and Design, new location, 31185 Schoolcraft in Livonia. Learn more at www.newconceptproducts.com. Call Najee Abood 734-744-9796.
Lead is invisible, but the dangers are real. Michigan's blood lead testing law aims to help identify exposure to lead in young children. All children should be tested for lead at ages 1 and 2. If they've never been tested, they should get a test by age 6. To help your child stay healthy, talk to their doctor about a blood lead test or visit michigan.gov/myleadsafe. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Welcome back and thank you for being with us. This is Khalil Hachem with US Arab Radio. As you well know, today is a festival of the end of the fasting month of Ramadan, which is called the Eid and Eid al-Fitr. And with us to discuss the end of Ramadan or the Eid festival, the Eid al-Fitr is Imam Mohammad Mardini, the director of the American Muslim Center in West Dearborn. Good morning, Imam, and thank you for being with us, and happy Eid.
Good morning and happy Eid to you and to your family and to the community and to all the Muslim world and the entire humanity.
Wonderful. So it's been a month fasting, and how does it feel that today is Eid?
Well, this is the price day. This is where, when you go through fasting for the entire month of Ramadan, it means you change the whole system, whether socially, spiritually, economically, and so forth, and so on and so forth. Now you become to normal. What I mean by that, food is permissible, water is permissible, all the sweet, all what you like every morning, the coffee, and all of this is permissible. But to follow the order of the fasting, you abstain from having all of this for the love of God. And you did do this in the whole month of Ramadan. And today is a day of celebration. Today is a day when you are to bring the happiness to yourself, to your family, to your community, and to the entire world. Today, we share the blessings of God the Almighty by being the loving heart, the giving hand, to share with all of these people. Those they don't have, they share what we have. That's why today we materialize the giving day, which is the charity of fasting, which is Zakatul Fitr. This is upon us, a mandatory on every family and every living child, man, woman, elderly. They will give this sadaqah, this charity, to feed the needy, the hungry. So on this day that we celebrate the mercy of God and the blessing of God that we completed the 30 days of fasting, this is the day we share the bounty of God with everyone. So no poor, no needy has we today on the face of the earth.
Absolutely. So just to remind those who are not familiar with fasting, fasting is abstaining from food and water, water, and any smoking and any other food activities from dawn till dark. Could you tell us a little bit more about the Zakat al-Fitr, which is the charity? Is that like a certain amount of money per person, or how does it work?
Well, it depends. You could give it money, you could give it food, you could give it, in one way or another, but it needs to be gone to the poor and needy and those they don't have. And the Prophet, peace be upon him, based on the availability of, what we have in town and based on ability of the person. That's why the Prophet divided in between the goods that the people consume in their own country. Okay, first, the amount is based on your ability. You could pay $10, you could pay 15, you could pay 3, you could pay 5. Whatever you as individual able to do, please do according to the ability of your financial situation. But remember, you're giving to God, so you want to present to yourself the best of the best. Now, you give it to all those they need. You start from around you, your neighbor, your community, and then further and further in the bigger circle. But if you know those people, they are indeed more in need for it in some other areas, so you could extend these
Mhm,
helps
mhm,
to
mhm,
others. And
mhm,
don't make a difference between Muslim and non-Muslim, Muslim,
mhm,
Christian, Jews, whoever, indeed in need to eat, to
mhm,
feed,
mhm, mhm,
the children, the elderly, you are to do so as soon as you can. And it is preferable to give it from the beginning of the month of Ramadan. But sure enough, the latest that you could give it is the prayer of today's day,
mhm,
which
mhm,
is the morning today.
mhm,
Before the prayer, you should give it. But if you
mhm.
don't, you give it after the prayer. It will be a charity, a sadaqah, not zakatul fitr in particular.
Exactly, exactly. These are tough days for the Middle East. There's war going on in Lebanon and other part of the Middle East. Even though it's a somber time, how can we really still find the strength to celebrate?
Well, this celebration will be eliminating hunger. The
Yeah.
celebration will be standing together to spread peace, to just call all humanity to stand up, to stop this war, to stop this aggression, and also to have, to remember that we also are at war in our country as well. So
Hmm.
if we are to stand up as well, and also to call for the rights, to call for stopping all these aggressions, and also to bring to the families who is right now paying double, whether for gasoline, for food, for every service item, and they don't have enough to do so. That's why
Hmm.
we have so many homeless, so
Hmm.
many people
Hmm.
they cannot
Hmm.
afford to put food on the table. With
Hmm.
all this really layoff, and firing, and no jobs, 92,000 jobs eliminated from our, job market at this moment. So
Hmm.
at home also we are, but we direct this food to the places where they are indeed more in need for food, for water, for medicine, for helping them to get out of misery and all of these, situations.
So again, Ramadan is a month of fasting, a month of learning, a month of spiritual growth, and
Yes,
hopefully that could you elaborate on that a little bit more?
sure. Well, Ramadan is a month that God revealed the revelation in it. And that's why we celebrate the whole month of Ramadan, fasting to God the Almighty, appreciating what God the Almighty favored us. And the biggest favor is the revelation of the Quran, revelation of, we call it, read to lead, and lead to succeed in this life and in
Hmm.
the hereafter.
Hmm. Hmm.
So God Almighty, who created us, who knows us better, revealed the revelation to draw our attention to be humble and servant of God, and also to spread peace, justice, and equality to those we live with. All of them. No aggression, no, but humility. No, you cannot really present what you have as a human just to look at superiority. You are equal in everything that God, the Almighty said. You are a partner in the air, in the water, on the land, on what God the Almighty sent. So we share the common good with everyone. But this month in particular is a month of learning. That's why we read the Quran, which is a revelation of God, who Allah, the Almighty God, told us to respect ourselves and to respect others, and also to believe in the oneness of God, oneness of the message. All the revelation is one. To believe in the oneness of the messengers, all the messengers from Abraham, peace be upon him, because we consider him the father of all the prophets, even
Hmm.
before him, Noah and also Adam, and to believe in all the prophets who came to guide our hearts to the guidance of Allah the Almighty, the
Absolutely.
Creator, and to live peacefully and to really share all what we have in terms of materialistic and otherwise, to spread peace, justice, and equality to all. Everyone, as Imam Ali radiallahu anhu alayhi salam said, may the peace and blessing of God be upon him, said, we are either brothers in humanity or brothers in faith.
Exactly.
And this is where we are to respect and
Exactly.
honor each
Exactly.
other, because
Exactly.
God created
Yep.
us from a single male and single female and make us tribes of nations. The best of us in the sight of God, those they are the humble, those they are sharing what God the Almighty present and put in between their hands.
Exactly.
No aggression, no superiority.
Before, yeah,
Yeah.
before we don't have a lot of time. Just very quickly, culturally, this is a time where family get together, they celebrate, they visit each other. What else? Does it vary from culture to culture?
Well, what we do in today in particular, we visit those that passed away. To pray for them, because there's no more reward for them other than what they present to themselves. But we pray as we've been commanded to pray for our parents who left this life and say the prayer of Prophet Abraham, "Oh God, forgive me and forgive my parents as they took care of me when I was a child." And also we visit the family. We start with the elder and then we'll bring back the ties of the family to celebrate together, to eat together. And we have the tradition for the kids. We give them what we call the gift, which is whether a monetary gift or some gift that they like to have. And we bring to the family happiness and also joy to celebrate with love and care for each other. That's why we bring them the best clothes today. We have them in the best environment. They celebrate with each other. They reach out to have some gifts and some candy bags and candies and and they draw on their faces and all of these just to remind them, especially for the young generation, to be attached and have their IDs or they have their identities.
Absolutely. Imam, thank you so much for being with us. We really appreciate it. Happy Eid to you and your family.
Happy Eid to you and to all the community and the world, that we prayed for the peace to be bestowed on this earth, in our country and all the countries around.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Arab Center Washington, D.C. was established in 2015 to serve as a Washington-based authoritative research center on the Arab world and U.S. policies in the region. My name is Khalil Hachem, and I'm the Executive Director of Arab Center, Washington, D.C.
I am Tamara Kharroub. I'm the Deputy Executive Director and Senior Fellow here. Our mission at Arab Center, Washington, D.C. has been to provide Arab perspectives to U.S. policy conversations and to highlight rights-centered approaches to policymaking as a way to serve the causes of human rights, democracy, just and peaceful resolution to conflict, and constructive long-term U.S. interest in the region.
Our work also addresses fundamental aspects of U.S.-Arab relations through timely and objective academic research, policy analysis, and educational exchange, reaching millions of people here in the United States and around the world.
Since our inception, we invested in producing reliable, evidence-based, and inclusive analysis on important issues shaping the Middle East and North Africa.
We would like to invite you personally to check out our publications and events at arabcenterdc.org.
And please follow our social media platforms for timely responses to news, events, and current affairs.
arabcenterdc.org.
Tired of the complexities of immigration? Haunted by the threat of deportation? Struggling to reunite with your family? Have you ever dreamed of living and working legally in America but don't know where to start? El Sharnobi and Associates Law Firm, a leader in immigration and naturalization law, offers you legal support across the United States. We specialize in asylum, deportation defense, green cards and citizenship, family reunification, all types of immigration visas. Don't wait any longer. Contact us today and let our expertise lead you toward a secure and stable future. To schedule a consultation, call us at 313-581-9666. That's 313-581-9666. When the aroma of Mahmoud Sela Basmati fills the air, you know it's going to be a good meal. Extra long pearly white grains that cook up fluffy, separate, and light. Never heavy, never sticky, just pure, fragrant perfection. It's the rice that feels as good as it tastes. gentle on the stomach and full of energy. Elevate your everyday. Ask for Mahmoud Basmati at your supermarket and taste the difference.
Welcome back and thank you for being with us. This is Khalil Hachem with US Arab Radio. I would like to thank Elaina and Maya Chebbani for being with us this morning, talking about trust and how to set up a trust to protect your property, to protect your family, and make sure that your family is protected, whether you're alive or after you pass. And this is really very important. And then each person is different. Each situation is different. So you would need to talk to both attorneys on how they can help you. They set up a free consultation. So it's a really good. It's worth it. Whether you have one property, two properties, three properties, it doesn't matter what you have. They'll be very happy to help you. Also, I'd like to thank Imam Mardini for being with us as well. Talking about the Eid al-Fitr, the end of Ramadan festival. And I also want to wish you happy Eid to you and to your family, regardless of the tough time that we're facing in this community, with the Middle East, the war in the Middle East, and then how it is affecting us here as well, whether it is economically, psychologically, and it just, we're going to be talking a little bit about the interest rates and what happened on Wednesday when the Feds did not increase interest rates for this month. They have been increasing interest rates 0.25%, but right now they are, they decided not to on Wednesday. We'll talk about it in a bit. Anyway, when it comes to the Eid, I understand it's tough. Some people lost loved ones. Some people, all the massacres are going on, whether it is in Lebanon, in Iran, or in the Middle East in general, in other countries as well. So at the same time, and I think we should find a way to, celebrate the fact that we completed the month and that we use this time to pray that the war will stop, and then for everybody's sake in that neighborhood, whether it is on the on every side. So we hope that happens. As far as the interest rates, the Feds decided not to increase interest rates, just to keep it as is. They have concerns over the war on that the U.S. and Israel launched on Iran, and this is what the war is doing is that war by itself is always a worry for the economy, and it's a major expense. We don't know where it's going. We don't know where the goals are. We have yet to learn why we went to war on Iran. The president keeps changing his story. And that's a totally different political discussion we're not going to get into right now. But the fact that he keeps changing his story affects the market, okay? And when it affects the market, it makes the market jittery. Then at the same time, we're losing jobs, and then the outlook for the economy is we don't know where we're going, and this really makes it kind of scary. This is why the Feds decided not to decrease interest rates. And let me explain to you what interest rates is. This is the rate that's set by the federal government, which is right now it is between 3 and 3.75%. This is the rate that banks use to charge each other, and when they're borrowing money, and when they're lending you money, they add to that charge. So right now, the average rate is between 6 and 7%. So we like to see it under 6%, near 5%, 5%, and 5.5, 5.2, whatever it is, near 5% is normal. In the past few years, we've seen it drop to almost zero, which is or 2% or 3%. Those days will never come back. So don't expect 2% and 3%. If we get it near 5 or around 5, that's really good. That's normal. And it's So this is banks add to that when they're charging you. And now since the Feds did not decrease interest rates, that means that it's not going to really change your borrowing. And if your loan is resetting, meaning that excuse me, if you had a loan 3 years ago at 2% or 3%, and now it has to reset, it's going to reset at 6%. So it's going to cost you more money at the end of the month. So so they decided not to do that, and they said, you know what, it's just not. We don't feel comfortable enough. We don't know where the war is going, and then the closure of the Hormuz Strait is a huge, because it's really affecting navigation of oil. The price of oil has gone up almost 3%, 30% since the war started, and it may even increase for more. This has also increased the fuel here, which is really important for the economy, how we move goods in this country. And a lot of people might tell you that America does not import as much oil from other countries. That's true, but oil is an international commodity, means it goes up in price somewhere else, it is going to go up in price here. This is how it works. And when the price of fuel goes up, that means the price of transporting goods and services here in the area goes up, and everything else goes up. And unfortunately, when prices go up, they don't come down. And this is really unfortunate. Even though the president said he wants to release the reserve of oil that we have here, that could take months and months and months. So the issue here is that we don't know where we're going. And we still don't know why we did. I mean, the other day, one of the top administration officials who resigned, said that, this is a war because Israel took us to a war. And again, this is political stuff. We're only worrying here about the economics. Okay. Again, uncertainty of the war, it brings in uncertainty in the economy. And in February, we lost 92,000 jobs. And if things get a little bit more expensive in bringing in goods here and there, and the price of oil continue climbing up, more and more businesses are gonna really they're going to lay off employees. It's going to be even a bigger problem unless the president takes a different course. I don't see how the economy is. President Trump asked Mr. Powell, who is the Fed chairman, to cut rates, but the Fed chairman said, no, we're not going to cut rates because we're concerned about the economy. He is staying there for 2 more months. And then we expect that the new person that the president has tapped in to come in as a Fed chair to be a little bit more aggressive on cutting rates. And here we need to be really, really careful. Yeah, we want to see rates down, but we don't want to push inflation up. The reason that the Feds increased rates is to control inflation. Okay, so inflation is a bigger problem. And I don't want to make it sound complicated because sometimes it gets kind of confusing, but all you need to know is that rates stay in the same, and it hasn't really made it change yet. It has dropped down a little bit from the beginning of the year, again, because of the uncertainty. Now, how does it affect you personally is the fact that you're going to be paying more for goods and services because the prices of oil are going up. You're going to be paying more. Same thing if you have a loan and it's not resetting, you're going to be paying the same price. That's not going to affect you. If you need to buy a home, this is really, this is still the same as it was last month and it was before. So it really has not given you a lot of relief. But at the same time, you can still get a loan and buy a home. And buying a home right now this month is better than buying a home in May or June or July, because May and June are the hottest months for buying homes. So we expect prices to go up. And if the new Fed chairman cut rates drastically when he takes over next month or the month after, and it's going to bring in more buyers into the market, and prices are going to go even higher. So it's better that if you buy a home now, you can refinance later when the rates go down. Okay, you always have the option of refinancing. The market is pretty good. We've seen it where in certain areas, homes are selling very fast. In certain areas, they're taking a little bit longer to sell because they're taking a little bit longer to close. So, and the other thing is that the prices have changed a little bit. They're not as high as they used to be. There's still good prices if you have a property to sell. You're still getting really good for good money for your property, but they're not as high as they used to be. In some areas, we're seeing a little bit of competition if a home is priced correctly. And here's what I like to do. As you well know, I'm in real estate. I've always want to if I'm selling a property, I always like to market at market value. I don't like to market higher. I don't like to market lower. And the reason is that market value is where it needs to be, the marketing needs to be, because if somebody wants to pay more, then we need to ask that person to guarantee the extra. And if we market for less, yeah, we're going to get more traffic, but the most we're going to get is to market value. So I'm not really serving you as a seller if I market it below market value. It's always to market at market value. If we sell at market value, that's really good. This is where it needs to sell. If we sell it for more market value, then it's really good. It's really good because we would need to ask for a proof of funds, those extra money, to make sure the buyer has that kind of money. If you have any questions about how this would affect the property, the value of your home, please let me know. I'll be more than happy to discuss it with you. And before I leave you, we have the best way to make wealth is if you want to get into a business, is not to establish a business from scratch. This is very costly, very risky. The best way to do it is to find a business where the folks are getting old, they want to retire. It may not operating at optimum, but it is operating, it's making money, and you can take it from these folks, and then you can bring in a new blood to it and make it forward. And speaking of that, we have a cement plant in the area. It's one of those small trucks. This is the only small trucks in the area. There are small trucks, the 2-yard and 3-yard, and then there is the big trucks. Okay, so the big trucks don't want to bother with small loads, but this particular plant provides small trucks, and it's a profitable. And then the owners, after 50 years, they want to retire, and it's selling at a really good price. If this is it's something that you want to get into, and they're willing to train, and they're willing to hold your hands and make sure that you're successful. And again, this is the kind of business that they're too old. They're not going to run it optimum 100%. But if you come in, you understand the business, you learn it, and then you can bring it up, then there is no way but up from there. If this is interest you, let me know, please. 313-819-0101. 313-819-0101. This is really a good. We're selling at a very good price. So it's a good opportunity for somebody to start if you're in the construction business or in the concrete business or any related businesses like that. You would have to know what you're doing. We had people who wanted to buy it because it's a good deal, but you know what? They don't know anything about the business. And we said, that's not a good idea for you. We want you to succeed. And for you to succeed, you have to really understand how the concrete business works and the construction business works. So if this is something that interests you, please give me a call, 313-819-0101. And again, if, for any commercial needs, don't hesitate to give us a call. We'll be more than happy to discuss it with you, and help you understand where you stand, whether you need to sell now or whether you need to wait a little bit. I don't really push people to sell. So because to make commission, I want to make sure that it's the best time for you to sell. I've had clients where they come to me and they say, we want to sell. And I say, it's not a good time right now. Let's, bring your business up so you can get you a better price. And if you listen to me, you're going to really, you're going to benefit from that. At the end of the day, it's your property. We do whatever you want, but I'm going to give you my opinion of what I think and when is the best time to really sell. Again, thank you so much for listening. Thank you for the great production of our team. Happy Eid to everyone in the community, regardless of the tough time that we're facing. And thank you to all the guests. Have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Bye now.